Now Prakash is going to present, giving a presentation on clock. It will be very important session, so everyone can listen. Okay. Okay, Prakash, you can continue.
Good evening, sir, and good evening, everyone. I am myself Dev Prakash. I am here to present the topic different ways to generate a clock. And in this, I listed six type methods to generate a clock. And first one is manual method to generate a clock. Second one using a for loop. Third using a repeat loop, and fourth using a while loop, and fifth using a for loop, and last using a always loop. And this we can say these first three methods are manual methods, and last three are like automatic methods. We can generate a clock automatically without giving any inputs. And, and I will show how we will generate the clock using a model sim. And this is the first one, which is we generating using a manual method, where every time here we have, this is a module name, module TB test bench name, and we are declaring clock as a reg. And in initial block, we used to declare that for which time slot it should be high and which time slot it should be low. And initially we declare the clock with 0. And next, for every 5 seconds, we are keep changing the clock for 1 and 0 and 1 or 0. If we want, we can keep 1 for continuous times also. And we can end the simulation at 80 nanoseconds. Like it won't be 80 nanoseconds, like it will add everything and the sum will be added to 80 nanoseconds because we are using it inside the begin and end block. So if we use separately in the initial and begin and block, this finished, it will end at 80 nanoseconds. So I am running the code. And we got output. Okay, I'll maximize it. Initially the clock is at 0, and for every 5 seconds we are iterating the clock, negating the clock. At 5 seconds it is high, and for next 5 seconds it will be to 0, and next each for 5 seconds it will be iterate for 0 and 1, 0 and 1, 0 and 1, because we are given code like that. So for every 5 seconds it will change from 1 to 0 and 1 to 0 and 1 to 0 at the end of 80, and sum of this delay plus 80 it will end the simulation, and it is at 150 picoseconds, not 150, 170. So 150, it's 150. And I'm going to, and second I'm going to generate the clock using a for loop. You want to keep this in comment. This is using a for loop. This is also a manual method. Why? Because, oh, sorry, it is a forever loop. This is a for loop. In the forever loop, why we calling this is a manual, because here we have to give the number of iterations, so we have to call it as a manual. So here we have to declare the integer to give the iterations, and we are declaring the clock to reg, and initial in clock we are giving a zero, assigning zero value, and here we at the 93 line we are saying that for every 5 seconds the clock will be negated. So at the end we will end the simulation at 100 nanosecond. 100 nanosecond. Why? Because a Questasim ends at a default it is a picosecond. So 100,000 picoseconds it will end at 100,000 picoseconds.
Prakash, I think tools who opened twice. Once check.
It's
Okay, one you can close, another you can run.
we got output, and this is for a for loop, generation of clock using a for loop, and these are values of I. Initially we made it to 1. Okay, I made it to 1. So for every 5 seconds, not for every 5, for every 10 seconds. Because I made it 10. For every 10 seconds, breaking clock as 0, 5. Initially made clock it to 0, and for every 5 seconds the clock was negated. Yes, it is 5, here 10, you can see, here it is 10. And for the next it is 15, 15 minus 10, for every 5 seconds the clock is getting negated. This is generation of a clock using a for loop. And I will show the next method. This method which is using a repeat loop, it is also a manual method. I'll make it comment. Repeat loop. Here also we have to declare that how many times we have to perform the iteration, and here we declare the clock to reg and initialize it with 0, and repeating this repeat loop for 10 iterations, and for each iteration the clock will be negated for each 5 seconds, and the simulation will end at 100 nanoseconds. And this is the code. So I will say Yes, we got output for this. I performed the 5 iterations. So 1 clock, 2 and 3 and 4 and 5 times it generated a clock. So each with for 5 each nanoseconds. Here it is 15 and here okay. Here it is 10 and here is 50, 50 minus 10 and 5. For 5 nanoseconds it is iterating, not it's negating. So this is a generation of clock using a repeat loop, and I will show another. And using another is using the while loop. It will generate automatically. We no need to give iterations in a while loop. I will show the code. And this is a code for while loop. Here we declared a clock to rise and initialized it to 0. And in the same initial block, we declared the while. While we declare if we give 1, it will be infinite loop. It will run for infinite. So to stop that infinite nature, we use here a dollar finish with at 100 nanoseconds, the simulation will be end and we can. And here we are negating the clock for each 5 seconds. For each 5 seconds. I will show the simulation diagram. It's running. We got output for this also using a while maximum. Here also it is at 5 picoseconds and it is at 10 picoseconds and 10 minus 5 5 picoseconds. For every 5 picoseconds it is getting negated. So we generate the clock here. Look here for 100 picoseconds the simulation is ending. And I would like to show another thing. Here I have used dollar finish. If you use dollar finish here, and this will be still in the infinite loop. Why? Because I will show the difference. Here we have used a for loop. At the end of the for loop itself, we used a dollar finish. It's working here, but in the while loop, it won't work. It will be in the infinite loop. And no need to check. If we check also, it will get into infinite loop. And the next one is generation of clock using forever loop. And this forever and always loop are best methods which we use in clock generations for the test bench. There is a code for it for forever. It is good. And I would like to say here we got outputs in picoseconds. Why? Because we have not used any time scale over there for previous one. For previous loop. For previous while loop, we have not used any time scale here. So by default, we are getting the outputs in picosecond. So we can say the Questasim default is picosecond. Here for forever loop. We're declaring the clock with a range. Why? Because it was to all the values and initializing it to the 0. In the same initial block, we are writing a forever loop. For each 5 seconds, the clock will be negated. And here we are ending the simulation at 100 nanoseconds, like 100 picosecond, not nanoseconds. Why? Because we have not mentioned any time scale here. And I will show the output. It's done. As here also we got output. Here also it is getting negated for 5 seconds, every 5 seconds, 10 picoseconds, and 15 picoseconds. 15 minus 10. For every picoseconds, 5 picoseconds, it is getting negated, and we have generated. At the end of 100 picoseconds, simulation is ending. Completed for. And the last one is using always block. Compared to forever, we use always block mostly. We can use both. Both are the best ways to automate the clock generation. Here we are declaring the clock to rest, and we are written always block. We must know another thing. Here in the forever loop, we declare the forever loop inside the initial block. Why? Because it's an initial block and it's a loop. And but here we have to declare the always block outside the initial block, because they are both the procedure block. If we initialize inside that, it will cause an error. We're declaring a clock with assigning clock with a 0, and at 100 nanoseconds, we will 100 picoseconds. We are not mentioned any clock, any time scale. So 100 picoseconds, the simulation will be end. For every 5 picoseconds, the clock will be negative. I'll save it and I will show the output. It's running. Yes, we got the output. Sure. Here we got output 20 picoseconds, and for 25 picoseconds, 25 minus 20, for every 5 picoseconds, clock is getting negated, and simulation will be ended 100 picoseconds. We can see here down. And I have shown all the codes that how to generate a clock, and I would like to discuss some few problems that how we can generate if we give a frequency or a time and ask to generate a clock. 6 completed, and we can use any of these way to generate a clock, but the best approach is to use a forever or the always. And I had a question that generating a clock with a frequency of 100 megahertz. Here I have given as a frequency. So we can make this conversion in the code, or we can give this direct 5 nanoseconds. These have frequency is at 100 megahertz. So converting it to time, we got it 10 nanoseconds. We are converting it to nanoseconds. Why? Because we are using a time scale in nanoseconds. If we use time scale in picoseconds, we can convert it to picoseconds otherwise. So we have to iterate for every half cycle. So the 10 nanoseconds will be by 2 and 5 nanoseconds. I will show code for this. How I generate run the code. This one. This is the first one. This is how to generate 100 megahertz of frequency. As I shown, I converted the values to 5 nanoseconds for every half cycle. We have to iterate the clock. Okay. Here I use for every 5 nanoseconds, the clock will be iterated and always, and I made a time scale to 1 nanosecond. So if I want to use in pico nanoseconds, I was to convert to the pico and I used to use the time scale as pico. And precision as time precision as 1 nanoseconds. And I'm initializing clock to 0. I will end the simulation at the 500 nanoseconds. Why? Because we mentioned at nanoseconds. So I will run. Yes, we go. Okay, sorry, there is some material. Okay, there's something with the comments. Okay. It's running. No, no, not got any error. So as I said, we are ending the simulation at 500 nanosecond. It is 500. Okay. For every 5 nanoseconds, it is at 15 and it is at 20. 20 minus 5. 20 minus 15, it is 5. For every 5 nanosecond, it is getting iterated. And this is the clock of 100 megahertz frequency. And we can say the clock with a time period of 10 nanoseconds also. And I'll show the next question. Like it is a first one completed. And the second one, I want to generate a clock with 31 nanoseconds. There is one difference with the previous question and this. Here, if we make it to half cycle, we get 15.5. Here, how we deal with the point values, I will show. So if we deal with the point values, we must declare the time scale with the precision, and I made it 1 nanosecond and 1 picosecond. So how many how much extent it will make the precision, it will show 1 nanosecond by 1 picosecond. That means 10 to the power 3 up to 3 decimal points. It will show the precision. That means let's take an example 15.2. If I take 15.2 in the simulation of waveform, it will show like 15.520 up to 3 values after the point. So if I use another more, like 15.5346, so extra bit. For this, it will show 6 no. That means higher. So it will make this 4 as 5, 15.535. This is the use of using the time scale. If we mention the time scale correctly, we can generate these point values also, decimal values. I will show the code. I will make it a comment. Previous is generating 100 megahertz. Here we are generating the clock with 31 nanoseconds. And this is a code, especially I want to show these point values to how we generate the, and here I want to generate the two values, two clocks also, the clock 1 with 100 megahertz and clock 2 with 31 nanoseconds as a time period, and initializing both with 0, and we'll end the simulation at 500 nanoseconds because we have maintained the time scale to 1 nanosecond. And save it. I will remove the wave. So in this one code itself, we can say that we generating the two clocks and we are generating the clock with decimal values also, like point values. So in this case, the time scale plays a crucial role. We must declare correctly. If you do anything wrong, it won't display. It will display, but it won't display the exact values. That's the difference. Getting the output. Here we go. No. Yes, we got the way without any errors. That's like this. This is the first clock, the down one, clock 1. For every 5 seconds, I'm negating it. Is for 5 picoseconds. 5 nanoseconds. I said no, 1 nanosecond equals to 1000 picosecond. That means at 50 nanoseconds it is at 50,000 picoseconds. So we can say that 1 nanosecond equals to 1000 picoseconds. That's the difference. It is at 4 nanoseconds and it is at 10. So 10 minus 4, we can say that for every 5 nanoseconds it is getting iterated. It is a clock one. It is a clock one. It is a clock 2. We are generating it 15.5 as a half cycle. So I will show it how we get whether we get the 15.5 or not. So here exactly I have to point. Okay, here. Okay, I will point here. Or here I am getting, look at here, 15.500. We can make exactly, we can generate the clock with decimal values also. And here I can see this. Here exactly we'll get that 31 nanoseconds. You can see that. This is a clock generation. Here I am generating the two clocks, and I also want to show another thing, that here we are getting a phase difference between the clock. Here clock is starting at some value. Okay, it may be something at this, but it's starting at, there is so much phase difference. Nearly a 10 nanosecond, more than 10 nanosecond, we had a phase difference between these two clocks. In the next code, I will remove this phase difference. I'll show how we do that. Third question. Here, generating a clock. I'll show with the same code without the phase difference. I'll make it common. Look at here, like it's generating the first clock with 5 nanosecond, that means 100 megahertz. It's okay. And for the second clock, we are declaring the for both clocks as a 0. But here we can declare the initial block anywhere. That much. And next it is the always block. Look at here. So I want to halt the for 5 nanoseconds. 5 nanoseconds. Why? Because the first clock is generating at 5 nanoseconds. It starts generating. Like initially, before it was value is 0, but at 5 nanoseconds, it will assert means it will get to high. So I am doing the same. So I am waiting the second clock for 5 nanoseconds and I am triggering it to the 1. So clock 2 will be also 1. And I'm just explaining. I will show the simulation also. For the next 10 nanoseconds, it will be in high position. And here I want to show that here I am generating the clock to with 20 nanoseconds. Uh, Generating clock to with 20 nanoseconds. So clock 1 will be high for 10 nanoseconds. For next, clock 2 will be high for this 5, and always clock it will repeat this 5 plus this 5. So it will be for another 10 nanoseconds. So I will show this difference. There will be no phase difference between this code. These two clocks, clock 1 and clock 2, I will show it in code. I'll save this. It's running. And, this we got output. Without phase difference, we will get here. Yeah, moving to completely. Something happened. Look here. I've done it. Both clocks are generating without any phase difference. That's the difference between the previous two clock generation and here also two clock generation without any phase difference. So here you have to observe that this always block plays a crucial role to make that there is no phase difference. And another, and the last question is that here we have to generate. In previous question we have came to know that generating clock with frequency and with time period we came to know, and here generating a clock with zero phase difference and with without a phase difference. But here I will show that how to generate a clock with a duty cycle also. So suppose I am this is my values. Time period is 20 nanoseconds and duty cycle is 40%. 40% duty cycle means T on must be for 40% out of 100%. For 40% T on must be on. For the remaining 60% T off should be on. See, it must be in zero. So the phase difference between the two clocks, clock 1 and clock 2 should be 5 nanoseconds. I will show it in code. We have 40 duty. I want to calculate the T on and T off time. Here I have given time period. So T on plus T off equals to time period 20 nanoseconds, 40% duty cycle. And we calculate it, we get T on as 8 nanoseconds. If you minus 8 nanoseconds with total time period here, total time period minus T on. So we get T off as 12 nanoseconds. So we can say that T on for 8 nanoseconds it will be high, and T off will be for 12 nanoseconds it will be 0. And I will show the code. This is it. Okay, here I am using a task, so it is best to use a task for a clock generation. Module TV, I am naming it as a TV. I am declaring and initializing both at the same time. We can do both at the same time or our wish. And here I am generating it, taking this as a reference clock, like a reference clock. With respect to this, we will match the phase difference. We can say calculate the phase difference. And so this is this used to calculate this task. This task used to calculate the T on, T off, and the phase out with the given values. This is a 40. Look at this one. This is a 40 nanoseconds. Why? Because I'm saying nanoseconds. I'm using your time scale as nanosecond. That's it. 40 and calculate. It is an input for time period and 0.4. I'm taking it in a point values. So duty cycle 0.4. We can say about 40% and 5 here. The phase difference between the clock reference clock and this clock must be 5 nanoseconds. And outputs are I'm here calculating the outputs because it is a task. We must declare inputs and outputs both, and we are assigning there is no calculation for the phase So we are assigning the phase out with the phase in. We are assigning phase value to the phase out. That's clear. So here we are generating T on. I shown no calculations here. T on equals to duty cycle into time period. So the same I mentioned here. T on equals to duty cycle into time period is 16th line, and for the 17th line, T off equals to time period minus T on. So this 40 will get minus from T on, and in task after we get the values. And one other reason why I am making a real, that it can store point values also. That's the reason for making it declaring real. And after the generation, the value will be given T on and T off and T out is phase difference. And here on this 21 and 20 line, we can use a delay directly, or we can use a at the rate clock. What can we use? This is a at the when the clock reference clock is generated, it will wait for the pauses. After the pauses, P out. Suppose I am declaring the phi as a phase difference between the two clocks, so it will wait for another 5 seconds. So that will be the phase difference. That will be the phase difference between, and this is a while loop. We are while we using the while loop, we are generating. As I said, no, initially we can use any method to generate the clock. So initially I made clock to 0 here. So it wait for a positive trigger of the reference clock and for a phase delay, and next it will get to 1. Clock 1 will be high for T on. T on means how much? Like here I'm for 8 nanoseconds. T off means 12 nanoseconds. For 8 seconds, clock 1 be high. So for next 12 nanoseconds, it clock 1 will be 0. So this will be repeated until the 100 nanoseconds. So here we are declaring the dollar finish in another initial block. The execution, how it happen, when we call the calculate, it will calculate the values of T on, T off, and P out. After that, we call the clock generator, will generate the clock 2. Here we can use both. I'll show you. I'll generate and show the output in. Okay, quit sim. Disregard. Don't. It's running. It's still running. We got the output. Okay, I'll show that how it generates a phase difference. Look, this is a reference clock, clock 1, and this is the clock 2, which we are generating with the phase difference as given here. Phase difference between the two clock is 5 nanoseconds. 5 nanosecond phase. So I will show it in the output. So here it is, 5 picoseconds, and here it is 10 picoseconds. The phase difference between the both the clock is, we can say 5 different. We achieved that, and we are, and another is that we are generating the second clock with 50% duty cycle. That means it should be high for 8 nanoseconds and it should be low for 12 nanoseconds. I will show you. Here it is 10 pico, 10 nanoseconds here, and here it must be 10 and 25. It was being for 15. Something happened. Okay. I'll show it. Here 19 nanoseconds. Okay. I'm unable to see. What's the value, sir? Here I'm unable to see the value. Okay, 15 nanoseconds. 15 and here 9 nanoseconds. 50 minus 9. We are getting 20. No, we should get 20. Oh, sorry. I want to mention that here I have given 40 as a duty cycle, but I calculated in my here it has a 20. So I will make that change in the code. So that's the difference. I here I have given 20 nanoseconds, but in the code I given 40. That's the only difference. So I will make change. Okay, again I should output accordingly. I will run the again. I will save it again. Only that change. No more errors. It's still running. Reload. Still running. Got the way. No. No, not got any errors. I will drag it to the computer. So to show the phase difference. The phase difference is between the two clocks. It is at 5 nanoseconds. That means 5000 picoseconds we get. I cannot point exactly here. And this is at 10 nanosecond, 10 minus 5. We have the exactly 5 nanoseconds of phase difference. And I have generated the T on for it should be for 8 nanoseconds. It must be high. What the value? Here 10 picoseconds. That means it must be 18. Exactly, it is at 18. 18 minus 10. We are generating the T on for 8 nanoseconds. And here it is 18. No? So it must be, it is 30. 30 minus 18, we get 12. For 12 nanoseconds, we are generating the T of. Okay, we have achieved that. From this, I can say that from this presentation, we have learned that with how many ways we can generate a clock using all these. And another is, if someone gives us a frequency or time, we can write the code using any method. And another is, if someone asks to generate the two clocks with zero phase difference, no phase difference, we can write code. And another is, if they give us to generate a clock with a duty cycle, we can do that also. We have discussed all this. This is a summary of this presentation. Okay, sir. Thank you, sir.
Very good, Prakash. Good presentation and useful presentation. Generally, if we say 100 people, out of 100 people, only 10 people will know better about this clock. 90 people don't know complete about this clock generation. And it is very important for verification engineer, because generally in the test bench, definitely we need to generate a clock that also according to industry standard. Okay,
Yes.
so we need to generate with the different duty cycles and phase difference. Sometimes we need multiple clocks. Okay, so you covered so many different types of ways of generating clock, and not
Yes.
only that coding, and you covered with some examples also, other examples also. Definitely, this preparation will be useful for you and for whoever watch this class after uploading. So definitely it will be useful. Definitely in the interviews, people getting these kind of questions. And because of this presentation, your English is improved, and you're able to talk fluently, and your presentation skills also improving. And for this presentation, you are you might spend so much time, nearly hours of time, to prepare
Yes.
all these things. So that
Okay.
will be indirectly useful to you also. Okay, na? Yeah. So
Yes.
this is the benefit of our presentation sessions, and I suggest to one more code also you can practice clock generation with the jitter. Uh, Generally, if you take a duty cycle, na, it is giving how
Yes.
much percentage of clock is high out
Yeah.
of in the total time period. Like that, there is a jitter means suppose we are expecting a clock edge at a particular time period, but it is coming at other instant. So jitter means deviation of clock edge, occurrence of clock edge with respect to the expected edge. We are expecting at one instant, but it is occurring at other instant. Maybe it may occur before or after. So how much percent deviation is there with respect to the actual instant and expected occurrence?
Expected.
Yeah. So that we generally call as jitter, and we calculate that also in terms of percentage only. So with that also you can, if you try na, so then your complete clock practice will be completed. Okay na? And one more with respect to clocks, there is a term clock skew.
Yes,
Okay.
sir. Another term.
Yeah, yeah. Suppose let us take a register, 4-bit register. We are giving synchronous clock, common clock. Even though we are giving common clock, one flip flop is very near to the clock and other flip flop is far away. So even we are giving similar clock, but that clock is going at different times to each flip flop. So there is a different, definite skew will be there. That gap will be there even we are giving some same clock. Okay, that too
That,
clock skew also you can practice, then your preparation will be complete. Okay na?
okay.
Right. Okay, right, good.